All right, you want to introduce the interview?
This is our interview with Andy. Was glad to finally get some more clarification. This album is just such a good rock and retro sound, little sleaze, lots of fighting. So we get to find out a lot more about how he came up with that crazy album cover.
And he's Australian.
We
Yay.
actually look very different than we normally do. We're dressed for Halloween. If we stand up, could you guess who we are?
Can you guess who we are?
Oh,
We're a rock and
no.
roll couple.
Yeah.
It was a band.
Oh, shit. I don't know who.
White Stripes.
Oh, sorry. I'm not a big fan, to be honest.
Neither are we, but there's only so many ideas for couples, you know?
We did
True.
we did Stevie Nicks and
Tom Petty one year. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, we did Stop Dragging My Heart Around, and we rehearsed the song. We could sing and play it great, but then when we went to try to do it in costume, we sucked.
Because we tried to like be in character and
That's
like the
hard.
vocals went to shit.
My
Oh,
my
wow.
respect for like tribute acts went way up because that shit's hard.
I was trying to get my Stevie
Oh.
Nicks turns down too much.
Play
It's
and
horrible.
sing and do the moves in costume is tough. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm part of a Def Leppard tribute. That's what I was doing last night. It's
Really?
Oh.
That's cool.
Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, Billy Idol.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a Halloween show last night. You know, everything was all dressed up with cobwebs and spider webs and
Oh,
skulls.
that's good times. Yeah, that's good times.
Yeah, it's cool.
Always kind of stinks when Halloween's in the middle of the week because you never know when to go to the bar dressed up. Do you go the weekend before? Do you go the week after?
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
it has to be before.
Yeah.
I just do it both times.
Mhm. Do you do like?
How did you?
Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, go on.
No, you
I
guys.
was going to say, how did you find the album? How did you come across that? Because we've not really done a lot of promotion for it, to be honest.
I can't. I'm not sure. I get feeds from like
PR people.
lots of PR people, and I get
Okay.
like Cream Magazine sends me, 10 new artists, and then Kerrang does, and then there's a punk magazine called Razor Cake, and then I also just go on Bandcamp and just take anything that looks interesting. So usually when we do a review, I've filtered through like usually 70 or 80 albums a week, so.
It is. Oh, well, thank you anyway. We appreciate the nice review.
Oh,
The album's great.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're kind of a big man around town. I heard if somebody hears you're in the band, they're there. So
Yeah.
I heard you're a bit of a local legend that way.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah.
So originally, kind of when Baby Jane kind of was done, what vision did you have, for starting this band?
Well, there was no vision actually. What happened? We were working towards the third Baby Jane album, so I had a few songs that I was preparing for that. And when the band sort of split up, I mean, it kind of happened all of a sudden, but I guess it was coming. You could see it coming, and so I was a bit over bands at that point, so I just started going into the studio once a week and just recording with myself just the songs I had been writing for Baby Jane. And then so the first album is a lot of it is just me, but then I brought in some guest players. And when it came time to launch the album, I put a few guys together and we did the gig, and we had so much fun that we kept doing it. So before you knew it, we had the second album out, and then literally the second album came out around about September 2019. I then went off on a little solo tour, and when I came back, COVID had really pretty much about a month after I came back, COVID hit Australia, and that put us on hold for a couple of years really. So it wasn't a vision to be a band. It was just something to finish these songs off really, and it became a band by accident.
I wanted to ask you, in your Def Leppard tribute band, do you play more of the two-armed leopard or the one-armed leopard?
Unfortunately, we've got to give them what they want, and Def Leppard aren't as big in Australia as they are in the US. So
yeah,
if we do any deep cuts, we clear the room, So we just have to.
Yeah.
give them the bangers, you know. So unfortunately, yeah, it's most of the
One
one
arm.
arm stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if
Yeah.
we do a song like "Let It Go," the room empties, you know, the floor
Really?
empties.
Oh,
my
that's such a
God.
shame because to me, I'm a high and dry man. To
Me
me,
too.
that's their best record to me, So
Yeah,
I just loved
I
it.
love all that.
Mutt Lang just they owe their soul to that man.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, even we do when we do a longer set, we do quite a few off Pyromania, but even that, you see the interest dwindling if you do something like "Too Late for Love,"
Yeah.
or you know, yeah, it's they
Yeah. No
just want
deep
to hear
cuts. I get it.
they want to
Yeah.
hear Hysteria and Pour Some Sugar on Me, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember like in the early 2000s, I was watching one of their shows on, it was like, it wasn't a live stream, but it was, it might have been, like a DVD or something. And they were all in long leather coats, like almost like they were vampires, right?
God.
They were trying to be
Okay.
kind of gothy. And I thought, you're going to have to sing Pour Some Sugar on Me. I mean, you can't,
Yeah.
you can only be so dark.
Maybe
Yes.
it's brown sugar now, huh?
It's just the way it is. So,
Yeah, God,
Yeah, sure.
mhm.
I had some girl, like we were out at this karaoke bar. She's like, let's do Pour Some Sugar on Me. And I'm like, oh, sure, I know that. I got up there. I did not know that. I'm reading the monitor going, the word saccharin is in there? I did no idea.
Yeah, then you think you know the words, right? Yeah, exactly.
Man,
Yeah, Rocket took a bit of learning for me because when he references all those different artists, you know, in the pre-chorus section,
Yeah,
trying to remember them all in the right order. Yeah, but I think
yeah,
my muscle memory's kicked in now. But initially, it was hard work.
yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you, so guitar wise, are you self-taught or did you have like lessons back when you were
No,
young?
I'm self-taught with everything.
Self-taught.
I really just started playing the guitar because I wanted to write songs really. So as soon as I knew E and A, I started writing songs, and then it
Yeah.
just went from there. But I never played on stage until, I mean, a lot of my bands I just sang in until maybe about 2000, early 2000s, and then I joined a band there where I started playing rhythm, and then I've done that ever since. So yeah, and I like it now. I love it. It's like a safety blanket, you know.
Who were some of your favorite guitarists? Sure.
I love Randy Rhoads, Slash, George Lynch.
Yeah.
Um, who else?
Okay.
Definitely a Dokken vibe, yeah.
So I have to apologize. I did your review and I think I had the old band members because it turns out you did the drumming on the recording. So I had a hard time finding out who actually did what. So I
Right.
apologize.
Yeah.
So how did you end up doing the drumming and everything for that?
Well, we were ready to. I was ready to start. I wanted to go in. I'd in the years since the last album, I actually put out a solo album of acoustic stuff, and then I did an album with a band. The guys from the tribute band, we did an original project called Cross-Eyed Lover. So we did an album, and then all the time I'm building up a bit of some songs in the background. So I got to a point where I was ready to do the next Sister Switchblade, but we'd already lost the guitarist, and the drummer had a motorcycle accident, so his back was completely rooted, so he couldn't do it. So I said, look, I want to start, so I'm just going to go in and make a start on it. So and yeah, the whole album actually took very little time. It took a long time when you consider maybe it was over a year from start to finish. But we're all working, so we're going in there for 2 hours a week. If you added up all those 2 hour sessions, it probably would have only taken under 2 weeks to do the whole album. It was very just go in there, smash it out, and leave it warts and all. We didn't worry too much about the small mistakes or anything like that. We just let them go.
No, the sound is amazing.
Yeah, it sounds really well
really,
produced.
really good.
Very well produced. Yeah.
It's very clear, and I apologize I didn't have you on there as drummer too. I was like, shit, I hate it when that happens.
Look, I actually didn't want that piece of information to get out. It came out by accident. I didn't know I was. He was going to quote me on it when I was talking to the guy who put that out, and because I want it to be a band product. It's not a solo product, but it's just the way it turned out. But of course, I can't do it all live. So when we go back out on the road, I'll have a real drummer.
So do you have like some people lined up for when you go out, or is it still kind of a work in progress?
Well, all I really need is a lead guitar player, and I actually have somebody in mind. I'm going away next week to Thailand for a couple of weeks, and then when I come back, I'm going to start meeting up with people, because we probably won't do anything this year, but next year we've one of the guys who's a local agent around here has said he wants to get us on the bill with some of the sort of 80s rock bands that he's got planned to bring over for tours next year. So yeah, we'll start. I'll definitely start up in the ante and getting a guitar player in place probably late this year, early next year.
It's too good an album not to get out there a little bit on it.
The name of the band. The name of the band. Like, were there any? Who came up with the name, and were there other names that you considered that didn't make it?
Well, no. See, again, the whole thing was never intended to be a band. I don't even know this, but you would know a band called Love Hate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, when Baby Jane, we were in America doing a tour in 2015, and I got a friend request from Johnny Love, who obviously is the guitar player, and I thought it was a mistake at first, but I started chatting to him, and we met actually at a Warrant sound check at the Whiskey. It was my birthday, and I was out there in LA on my own. The band hadn't arrived yet. So me and Johnny, he was doing the sound that night for Warrant, and we met, and he bought me a beer for my birthday, and we got chatting and said, "Oh, let's do something one day." So when I was back in America, December, we came back for the Motley Crue final tour. That debacle,
Right.
and yeah, after that, early January, me and him got together, and I'd written this song that I'd sent him to say, what do you think of this? And he loved it. So it was called Sister Switchblade. The song was actually called Sister Switchblade, which it was about, pretty cliche, but it's sort of about a dangerous woman. But I didn't want to call it a bad woman or a nasty girl or anything like that. So I wanted something a bit different. So I just was trying to think, what's another term for a woman, sister, and something that's dangerous is Switchblade. And I thought I'd come up with a really original thing, but it turns out there's actually another band in Australia called Sister Switchblade on the East Coast.
Okay.
And I didn't know at the time that there's a very famous movie called The Switchblade Sisters. So that shows you how original I am, But but yeah, me and Johnny did that. He played the guitar. I played the drums here, and then we sent the files over, and then he did the bass and the lead guitar, and I did one rhythm guitar and sang it, of course. And we did that in Van Nuys in 2016. So that, and then again, when I was doing the first album, I didn't want to call it Andy Smith, so I just thought, I'll just use that name as a band, and then there it is, stuck.
It's cool. Yeah.
So I've noticed your covers are extremely different, kind of like from the double entendre of the martini glass and the lady, and to the nun and the, I guess, the crazy prostitute or whatever, to this one. So what kind of inspired this nuclear explosion and Don't Try This at Home?
Well, Don't Try This at Home came because I wanted to try and record all the guitars and the bass from my room, and then I guess it can be done. People do it, but I just couldn't get it sounding right. And you can't really beat a mic'd up amp. So, and I wasn't doing that. I was going directly into the line, and so I ended up doing it in the studio. So Don't Try This at Home comes from that. And as far as the artwork goes, I just thought I wanted to try and find like a house that had been demolished, or a pile of rubble or something like that. But I couldn't find a good idea for it. And when I started chatting to the girl who does the art, we found this and just went with this. So I actually got a bit of grief over this. Like, someone was having a go at me saying, "Oh, but you shouldn't be putting photos like that up on, on the web. We're very close to this happening with what's going on in Russia and North Korea, and it's like, fuck, man, it's a random photo for a rock band being
Yeah.
the most unpolitical band in the world,
Yeah. Everybody gets offended by something.
And
Yeah,
also
exactly.
probably something you should not try at home. There you go.
Yeah, so but
I
that,
thought it looked
that
really
first
good.
one, funny enough, the Best Served Cold, the guy who did that, the guy who did that was actually the guitar player from Baby Jane, and when he gave it to me, all I saw at first was the martini glass, and I said, "Oh, could we put some ice blocks in it?" And he said, "Oh, if you put ice blocks in it, it takes it away from the woman's legs." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I had to have a double look. I'm like, "Oh, I love this." So yeah, no,
You really do have to look at it for a minute before you see it. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he
Very
was a big he's got a nun thing. So
Oh,
of course
really?
Yeah, I got a
he
kind
does.
of a, well, I went to Catholic school. It's a long story,
Oh,
so,
kinky. Yeah, right.
yeah, I got kind of a
So-
nun fetish.
We
Stace has several costumes she wears
I
from
know we
something.
interviewed Nun Slaughter, so I had a nun get up and he was like, "Don't mothball that." I'm like, "Oh, weird. Sad."
Oh, you got to keep things fresh. If that works, then you got to start
Exactly,
wearing it.
Sister Teresa, the spanking nun, So,
So you guys have such a cool 80s Sunset Strip vibe. Who were your favorites back in the day, and who do you think had the best hair?
Well, my favorite band since I can remember has been Motley Crue. I'm a little bit disappointed in them lately with everything that's happened with the McMahons and all the backing tracks and coming out of
Yeah.
retirement. I spent a lot of money. I went to the last 3 shows at the Staples Center, and then a few years later they're back touring again. But that's fair enough. A lot of bands do that, but Motley were always my number one. I love the first couple of Guns N' Roses albums, but even by Use Your Illusion, I kind of tuned out a bit. I thought they'd lost a bit of their edge. I love Skid Row, Love Hate, from back in the day, those type of bands. Funny enough, I was never a huge Def Leppard fan, but when I joined this tribute, I started to have a massive respect for them after paying deeper attention to the songs, when you start to learn them. So I guess Def Leppard, and these days, I'm just all about Buck Cherry. They're just my number one for sure at the moment. The best hair, I don't really know. I guess I don't know. Sebastian Bach, let's say.
Oh,
Back in the day, not so much now.
Yeah, that was a lot of hairspray at one time.
I saw Motley Crue on the Theater of Pain tour, and Loudness opened for them, and that was not a smart move at all because they were so tight and they were so good. And when Motley Crue came out, I was like, okay, Motley Crue sucks a little. Okay.
Yeah, you know what?
I mean?
I've heard that from people who saw that show. Everyone says Loudness completely wiped the floor with
Destroyed them. And Loudness had even with their terrible English, which again, I always never understood that. I was like, why didn't somebody pull them aside and help them with their English?
Or help them with their lyrics.
Yeah, help them with their lyrics, because I mean that was really, I think, what held them back, but whatever.
It probably did, but it's also kind of quirky too, isn't it? I mean, it probably did hold them back in the long run, but I kind of like it how it.
Yeah,
I mean, I saw them when I was in Malaysia before COVID. I saw them at a club over there, and they were still brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were told by bands like Riot, you go to Japan and you were like, it. Rock never died there, kind of the way it kind of had a reset here, and it's just like they're like, what is all this for? And they're like, no, it's for you because you're here.
Yeah. Like in the US, they're playing to like 6 guys on a Wednesday night in, South Dakota. And they go to Japan and people are like shaking the limousine and stuff. It's crazy. Yeah.
That's the same with them. The band DAD from Denmark.
Disneyland After Dark, right? Isn't that what it stands for? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd only ever heard "Sleeping My Day Away," the hit that they had. But they were coming out here playing at a pub, and then so I went along, and like you say, it's just a pub. I mean, there was a decent crowd, but maybe a couple of hundred. That was about it. But that was one of the best shows I've ever seen. It was just amazing. I'm a big fan now, but there was a guy who I know who's from Denmark, and he said, this is so bizarre to see this band in this room because in Denmark they're playing stadiums and arenas. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not that many Danish hair metal bands. I can't think of very many besides them, you know.
No, I think they've got the monopoly
Yeah.
on that.
So this has always kind of been your baby. You write the songs, you kind of call the shots. Would you kind of consider yourself a control freak, or do you think you're open to a democracy?
No, to be honest, I'm anything but that. I prefer the band. Like the second album was completely written as a band. Well, I mean, there's one or two of my songs on there, but that's only because they were just there and they were finished. But would always rather write with a band. But at the moment, especially with this band, we're so spread out. Like we're living in different towns in WA, and getting together is just really hard, especially like you say, with the age we're getting to now and our commitments and day jobs. So, and this album, like I said, I was ready to start it, and it was, the songs were just there. We hadn't really jammed, we hadn't done anything for years since COVID. So that's why it turned out the way it did. But I will definitely always rather collaborate. Like I love jamming. I love making a song work together in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like it when you can feel like the magic actually
Yeah,
happening, and everything.
That's a lot more fun
Yeah.
than trading files, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're just playing off each other, which we haven't done for a long time. But the other band I'm in, well, again, this is not a band that plays often yet, but it's called Cross-Eyed Lover, and this is the band with the guys from the Def Leppard tribute. That's more. I mean, one guy kind of writes the main bulk of it, but then we get together and sort of bounce off each other a little bit. So that's a little bit more like that. But yeah, you need to check that out. We got one album called Blonde Zombie. So there's a Halloween twist for you too.
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. So obviously the recording process is probably completely different than Tales and Taboos for this one, since you were kind of manning everything or nearly everything yourself. Did it feel super different?
No, not really, because I mean, I've done a lot of. I mean, I record solo stuff as well, and so I know the guy very well who we used as the engineer. So yeah, it felt pretty natural, really, to be honest.
Yeah, I love your kind of Switchblade. It just has that a little bit of sleaze factor to it. What percentage sleaze do you think you got to put in each song?
I love a bit of sleaze, like, but I don't like cheese. I like sleaze, so I try and keep the sleaze so it's a respectable sleaze,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Yeah, I
it.
know what you mean.
We once
Yeah.
interviewed
I
this
think.
band, and they, out of the blue, they were like, talking about their persona. They're like, "Yeah, we like to be kind of seedy," and I'm like, "That's different."
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's right.
seedy. I feel a bit
Seedy.
seedy this morning.
All right. I always ask every Australian artist this question. So we in America, we always think of that when you live in Australia, you get out of bed and you're stepping over giant crocodiles and there's giant tarantulas crawling up your walls. And I mean, is there any truth to any of that? Giant sharks just like, kind of up on land,
Well, here in Perth, not so much the crocodiles. We don't have them, but there's definitely. I mean, look, I definitely check the Shark Watch app before I go for a swim because they're out there all the time. You just got to make sure that they're not at the particular beach I'm going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got. I mean, look, it is true to a sense. I mean, but it's probably the same in the States too. You go walking in the bush, there's a good chance you're going to come across a snake or a big spider. So you just in the city, it's not so bad, But you
Right.
go
Of
walking in
course.
the
Yeah.
bush, it's all out there, and in the water. So
My biggest fear is like where I work is out kind of out in the woods, and the deer are just like jumping out all the time. Trying to not hit a deer is very difficult, when it's foggy at
I,
dark at night. We have so many deer around here. So.
well, that's the same with kangaroos here. They're stupid. They literally they'll jump right in front of your car. So
And wait
and
and then jump. Yeah.
yeah, and they're 100% muscle. So they're just it's like hitting a brick wall if you hit one. Look, touch wood, I haven't actually hit one yet. But you drive down in the country roads here, and there's dead kangaroos all over the road.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
and they'll write your
Wow.
car off, definitely. Yeah.
So, all right. So kangaroos are like deer for you guys. I got it. Okay.
Yeah, I guess deers would be the same. They'd be very muscular, just like a
Yeah.
big.
Well, with the big antlers and everything. And the thing is,
Yeah.
like, we keep building new neighborhoods and we're encroaching on their territory. So they have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So it's really, we're doing it,
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
My mother's a bit of like an Annie Oakley.
Oh, this is great.
She loves
Yeah.
her gardens, right? So this deer
She
kept
loves what,
eating
sorry?
her. My mom is a bit of an Annie Oakley,
Yeah.
She'll
Oh, who's
like
that?
she'll like she's 80 years old, right? But she has these gorgeous gardens, and this deer kept eating like her plants. So she's out the window shooting rubber bullets at this deer, right? So she hit it, and the deer ran and freaked out and took out like 3 of her birdhouses that were like up on stilts. I was like, "That's what you get."
See, so you're right.
But
Did he
when
come back?
she
No, I
does,
bet
like,
it never came back.
Yeah.
she'll kill like squirrels that irritate her, and then she strings them up for the foxes to eat. I'm like, something's wrong with
She
you,
makes an
man.
example of the
Something's wrong with you.
squirrels.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, your mum sounds a little bit twisted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And she just
With
looks like this
respect.
little,
When it comes to her garden, she's like a mob boss or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
like,
Don't mess with
she's
her.
shooting out the window,
Yeah,
Mom.
don't mess with her. Yeah.
I guess you got to behave yourself, or else you'll wake up with a dead squirrel on your in your bed.
Luckily, this generation's not into guns, so I feel a little bit safer, So
I'm good.
yeah.
It was kind of goofy.
There's on this album, there seem to be a lot of tracks about fights or altercations, as opposed to like boy
Boy
meets
meets
girl
girl.
songs. Have you ever been in a
Yeah.
scrap yourself? Is that kind of, is any of it like autobiographical? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, in my younger years, I avoid that kind of thing these days. But I didn't. They're not necessarily. I'm trying to think which songs you're referring to. I mean, the gloves are off, of course.
Oh, the gloves are off, and
There was a couple. I think
Oh, yeah,
2 or 3.
all
2 or 3,
about
yeah.
fighting.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's "Don't Tell Me What to Do."
Or
Yeah.
kind of what a way to go,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They're real voice messages, by the way.
No. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
They're real.
Yeah. And one guy, the guy at the very start, can I swear on this?
Oh yeah.
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 Yeah, he says he rang me up and I counted it in the space of about a 30-second message. I think he said fuck about 55 times. So I just cut them all up, and I didn't use all of them, but I just used enough to make it a decent intro, But yeah.
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 Not a
Then there's
great.
a snippet at the end too. It's a woman. Is that a real one too?
Yeah, that's a little old lady. That wasn't one of my voice messages. That was her friend's, but yeah, I stole that one.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, I mean, I don't think this generation would understand as much, but like, I grew up in the 80s in Baltimore City, and fighting was just something that you just had to do sometimes. Like, if I was at the arcade and somebody messed up my game, we were going to go outside and take care of it. You know what I mean? And I would come home with a black
Yeah.
eye or whatever, and it wasn't like a big deal or anything. It was just like you went and
Boys
your
with
shirt
boys,
was
that was it.
torn and you just threw it out and you just went to school. I mean, it was just like fights just happened, it wasn't like a big deal, So
Nah, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not a huge fighter. I never have been, but of course they have happened. You go out, and when you're as tall as I am, which has been the story of my life, like as soon as I walked into school, I was taller than the kids like 2 years older than me. So the
Yeah,
toughest
yeah.
kid in school wanted to fight me straight away, and then
Yeah.
when you go out as well in Perth, back in the day when I had my long hair and everything like that, you're a faggot or a poofter, in
Yeah,
Perth.
yeah.
So it's a little bit rednecky here. So obviously people wanted to have a go then. So yeah, it happens from time to time, but I generally try to avoid it. And it's definitely now I steer away from that.
But it's good that you have songs like the gloves are off, but you could just be cathartic to just,
Yeah.
sing it when you're mad at somebody. It's a much better way to take it out to sing along with that than actually get in a fight.
I have this
Yeah, I
memory. I have this memory when I was like 12 or 13 and I was playing a video game. The only, I mean, one of the angriest I ever got when I got in a fight was I had just gotten a large snowball.
God.
I put the snowball down and I was playing Dig Dug, and this asshole kicked it over.
Oh no.
I yanked him outside and beat the crap out of him. I was so angry. It was $1, but it was the point of it.
Yeah, exactly.
It was all the money I had, and I couldn't wait to eat it. And it was just like, but that was what it was like. I mean, back in the 80s, like I remember like playing video games in the arcade. Like I would, if I was the top scorer and I got knocked off the top score, I knew who knocked me off. I'd be like, JAA, that's fucking Jerry. And I would just play all night until I was back on top. And I couldn't wait
Yeah.
at school the next day. I'd go find him and I'd be like, you ought to check out Frogger on
God.
your way home.
It's so not a thing anymore.
It's not, it doesn't exist
Yeah.
anymore. But I mean, having the top score in an arcade game was huge when I was growing up, you know?
Oh, that was important. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And like twisting that knife, being like, yeah, you gotta check out the top score now, bitch. You know, like that was what I lost in the ether, you know?
Cool. Yeah, cool.
Mhm.
So another favorite track is I love "I Smell a Rat," which kind of
Yeah,
honestly did
too.
remind me a little bit of like a rat-like style,
Yeah,
except
yeah.
without the Stephen Piercy really annoying voices.
Yeah.
Hey, those early Rat records are awesome. Awesome. Out of the Cellar, the first EP.
Now they're doing Geico commercials.
Yeah, but I mean, the production, DeMartini's guitar sound. God, I love those records. Invasion of Your
Yeah.
Privacy. What a great record. You know?
So when you did the remix, what did you change around?
I think the first version we had the guitars sort of more. I think we had them more central, and what we decided to do was just do a hard pan left and right. So there's obviously two different guitar parts, and now you can. There's a lot more clarity because one's in your left ear, one's in your right ear.
Oh,
We
okay.
also turned the drums up a little bit. I think they were a bit lost in the mix in the first one, so just little tweaks. Like in fact, all the songs that I put out initially as singles, we changed the panning of the guitars on all of those. So that's why I Smell a Rat, Dead to Me, and there was a third one. Anyway, they all got panned differently, and the whole album is consistent now with that. We kept the whole album that way, so that was the change.
Yeah, I like that one too. Dead to Me is a real burner. What were the kind of themes you were thinking of there? It kind of reminded me a little bit of retribution, a little bit of anger.
Yeah, well, it's when I guess when you fall out of love with someone and it's you just they're dead to you. Then there's just some, or it might not even, in that case it wasn't even a person as such. It was just something in my life that I loved, and all of a sudden you get let down over and over again, and eventually you hit a point where you just cut it off. They're dead to you, and
Yeah.
that was that. I mean, look, all this, to be honest as well, all my songs start as a title. Like, so I Smell a Rat, for example, I just like the title of that. And the verses are generally about different things, but they all relate to the theme of I Smell a Rat. So it's not, none of the songs are about one particular thing. There's all a mixture of stuff in there.
Have you ever started out with the title, wrote the song, and then changed the title?
Well, sometimes, like, I'll have a title that is a working title. For example, like what was it? I think what's the I can't remember the name of my song. Oh, there's a song on the album anyway. It's towards the middle, and it was originally called Cherry Groove because I felt it had a bit of a Buck Cherry vibe. And then there was another one, What a Way to Go, was actually called Lynch Twist, which, because I thought it had a bit of a lynch mob feel. So I will give them titles, a piece of music, a title, just while we're working on it. But now I think generally when I've got the title, I stick to it. Other than that,
Yeah. That, another interesting thing is you're a tall singer, right? I have this theory that short singers keep their voices longer. Like if you look at Klaus Meine, Ronnie James Dio, Bruce Dickinson, Udo Dirkschneider, that body style, they never lose their voice. But then look at like Bon Jovi, Don Dokken, it's
David Coverdale.
David Coverdale. It seems like the height works against you, as you get older.
You would think it'd be the opposite. You would think we
You'd
have
think it
more
would be.
lungs, but
There's something about that
I don't know.
short body style. They keep the pipes. It's crazy, So
Well, I hope you're wrong in my case. I
for
hope to
you,
be
I hope
singing
I'm
for a few
wrong.
more years.
Yes. Well, you didn't make those
Wait, so-
millions of White Snake dollars either. So
Yeah,
Not yet.
not
I
yet.
mean, we saw Rose Tattoo a couple of weeks ago, and Andrew Anderson, he's 4 foot or something, and he's
Yeah.
still belting it out. And he's
Of course,
he's
see, it fits the theory. Yeah.
yeah,
Love
77
Rose.
years old.
Love Rose Tattoo. I always forget about them. The Australian
Yeah.
AC/DC. I love that band. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I was reviewing the new Astral Doors this week, and of course they've been around a while, and of course he still has that kind of vibrato, and Mark was immediately like, "How tall is he?"
That was the first question. I'm like, is he one of those short guys? Yeah.
Jeez, I better watch that.
So another one of my favorite track, in fact, my favorite track was 24 Hours in the Hole. Love it. I love the way you equate solitary confinement to soul searching. How did you put those two things together?
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, again with that one, those lyrics, I went back to maybe 20 years of a song that I'd written with another band that we never recorded, and because obviously it's sort of about being out late and maybe mistakes that you make when you go out and have too many drinks, and the regret you feel the next day, and obviously these days I'm not doing that so much, so I had to revert back to an old version of me and tweaked it a little bit, and then but yeah, that was it. Just that sort of what's it called, that self-loathing you feel sometimes when you've made a bad decision. And then
wake up next to a dumpster, and you wake up in a parking lot next to a dumpster, and you're like, these aren't my pants. Yeah.
Yes,
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I always feel so stupid. Like every now and then I'll have one too many and get an Uber home, and then you leave your phone in the Uber, and it's absolutely impossible to get your phone back, because if you contact Uber, they're like, we sent a code to your phone. I'm like, I just clicked, I lost my phone.
See, the thing is, like, I know that happens hundreds and hundreds of times a day, at least in this country, and they don't have any system for it. It's ridiculous.
It's really annoying.
You
But
know?
I mean, every time I manage to get it back, but God, it's like the
so
shit
hard.
you gotta go through.
Yeah. I've done that.
Yeah, we've all. They don't have a good solution. Yeah.
Yeah, one time we went out to see this band that we liked that was coming into town. I bought a shirt and I threw it over my shoulder, and I thought it was still there. And as soon as I got in the house, I realized it wasn't there. I went running out. He was gone. But luckily I managed to catch up with him the next day. I'm like, hi, can I please have it back, please?
Yeah, you'd be devastated.
Yeah, exactly. So for What a Way to Go.
Oh, I like that one.
Is there some cowbell in the mix on that one?
Yeah, it actually could have been a little louder in hindsight, but that's cool. Yeah, we got cowbell on that one, and the other one, who I keep forgetting the name of it, the Buck Cherry thing, the Cherry Groove. Finger on the Trigger. That's it. Finger on the Trigger. There's cowbell in that one too, because we're an 80s band. You got to have cowbell.
Is there ever too much cowbell?
Never.
Mm-mm.
But well, you know what? I shouldn't say that. Of course, you always have to be careful not to do too much of anything. But
I can't think of an example where there's too much cowbell, like Loverboy, Twisted Sister, Blue Oyster Cult. It's all good. I can't think of any time where it's overdone. I don't know.
No, I love the cowbell.
Love the cowbell.
So also really enjoyed your acoustic version of Are You Listening, which was a Baby Jane song. What made you kind of bring it back and put it in there? Because it's really nice.
Thank you. me and the guy who originally wrote it, we were in a band because that was actually a song for another band before Baby Jane even, and we got offered this random gig, and we just as a duo, so we're trying to put a set list together, and we said let's try this, and it came out like completely different, almost a little darker than the original, and and we both just like, wow, this is really quite cool. You know, it's not meant to be in competition with the original because that song was Baby Jane's that was the song we ended with every night. It was the one that everyone really enjoyed. And I don't think, like I said, this new version is not meant to be in any competition with it because I don't think it would win any competition with the original. But I just like it as a little twist on that, and for the people who know Baby Jane, you know, a little little tip of the hat to that, you know, and something different. Nice way to end the album.
Now I watched an old thing on YouTube of you guys doing that live, and it was definitely a lot different.
Yeah.
But I really liked both versions.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think it's got its place, you know. It's but yeah, as I said, that song was just, it was written to be played live. The first version, the electric version, it was literally we wrote that with the vision of this is what it's got to sound like pumping through a PA, and that's why it's actually quite simple. We just, you know, with the dampened chords in the verse and then just that big power chord that was like meant to blow your hair back when it comes in, and it seemed to have that effect.
Yeah, it reminded me of Justin from The Darkness. They'll do one of their songs acoustic, and it's just like that, completely different. Same song, but it comes through so much darker. They almost always have that on their albums where they'll have, you know, acoustic version, and that's what it reminded me of. They really good to take the same song but completely turn it inside out. It's very cool, you know.
Yeah. I've not heard any Darkness do that, but I will check it out. I like the Darkness.
Usually it'll be the bonus tracks on their albums, like on Easter is Canceled. I think there's one, and yeah, it's the newer last couple albums they do that. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Have you ever listened to his podcast?
Oh my God.
I have, yeah. In fact, he championed a local band here from Perth called Southern River Band, who you may have heard of. They're starting to really make some noise. They're blowing up all over Europe. They're getting this and out. And it was the Southern River Band went on tour with the Darkness, and so Justin sort of built a relationship with them, and he did a review of their album or one of their songs on his podcast, and ever since then, that promotion has just lifted this band to the next level, you know. So it's very, very cool podcast.
That's cool. Yeah, I love their music, and I love when he tells stories about the Darkness, but I have a hard time with his podcast because it's him and that girl, and it's just, they'll go on a tangent, and it's like, how long have you been drinking tea with ginseng? Well, you know, I didn't drink tea for most of the 90s. Well, what did you drink? Well, you know, it was all sorts of things I drank. It was
like
mainly
riveting.
I like the bubbly water quite a bit. I mean, and it goes on for like 15 minutes. It's just like as much as I love his music, sometimes I gotta bail. Sometimes I just can't hang in there, you know.
Well, I've actually not seen the girl with him, so maybe I've not. Is that a new thing? Because the podcast I've seen, it's just him talking about like a song.
I don't know.
Or a band.
I've never seen the one on YouTube, but the one on Spotify is always him and the girl. You know, you know what? Well, how many bottles are in a case? Well, I don't know, do I? You know, like yeah. So, like, talk about the Darkness. I want to hear about the Darkness.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, go ahead.
All right. So we play a game on the show. It's 5 random questions with Stace. That's me, even though I'm dressed
in disguise. Yes.
I'm actually a blonde, but you know.
Yes. Yeah.
I had to get the wig for White Stripe.
And they have more fun, or do they?
I don't know.
So I want you to pick 5 numbers between 1 and 100, and those will be the questions you'll answer.
Okay, yeah. 5, 15, 74, 86, 7, and 13.
Do we have too many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Is that
I
it?
think we have one too many, but that's okay.
Oh,
We'll start with number 5. Have you ever tripped and fallen in front of a crowd?
yes.
Oh, God.
My jeans were too tight. I tried to jump on stage. I'd been off to the side. I tried to step back on, and my jeans were so tight I couldn't lift my leg up, and I not
Skinny
good.
jeans, they'll get you every time.
Have you heard the
Yes.
Graham Bonnet? When Graham Bonnet, I always tell the story. When Graham Bonnet, his last gig when he was Michael Schenker's singer. Have you heard this story?
No.
So it was it was his last gig with the Michael Schenker group. He didn't know the lyrics, so he would tape the lyrics to the monitors, and the crowd started like messing with him, like ripping him off, and he was berating the crowd. So the band starts, and the music starts, and he starts yelling at the crowd for ripping off his lyrics, right? And then he bends over to pick up the lyrics, and his pants like completely split down the middle, and his dick
Oh,
pops out.
no.
And instead of putting it back in, he waves it at the crowd and tells them that they're all a bunch of, so-and-sos, and then walks
That's
off.
rock and roll, man. That's
Walks
rock
off,
and roll.
right? And that was in the first like 2
Respect.
minutes. Like the band had to stay on stage for like another 40 minutes. So I always just pictured the call the next day where they're like, we're not gonna need you to come to band practice today,
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're gonna have a shit show, that's the way you do it, just blow it up,
All crap. Yeah, that's it.
All right, number 15. Did you ever binge a Netflix show, and what was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've binged quite a few. Actually, the most recent. Oh, it's not Netflix. No.
It doesn't matter. Anything you've been.
Or
Well, the
streaming service.
This was a bit different for me actually, but my girlfriend found a show called The Handmaid's Tale. I don't know if
Oh
you've
my
heard of it.
God, we died over that.
It's dark. It's like
Yeah.
the darkest show I've ever seen. I mean,
Yeah, it's and we kind of got sucked into that, and literally we've just because we came into it late as well. We only found it this year, but we finished it about 2 weeks ago, and now we're like, well, what are we supposed to do now when we get together? Like
I know what you mean.
Handmaid's Tale. Yeah,
There is
Yeah.
supposed
So
to be
yeah,
a
that's the
new
most
season
recent.
coming out eventually. So
Yeah, it's not
I
over.
know,
There's one
but
more season. Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, so, but we started, and they're quite long episodes. They're not short, so it's we started, and we would do like 2 or 3 a night, but then when we'd go back the next time, we'd have to watch the third one because by the time that one came on, we were 2 bottles of wine deep, and we can't
It's
remember what's
exactly
happened.
the same thing here. It's exactly so. Right. So the first half hour, we're figuring out where we passed out. So we lose that.
Yeah.
And then the last half hour we lose because we're passing out. So you really only get a couple of hours of good viewing in there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Same thing. Same thing.
It's
Yep.
like, oh my God. Yeah, I can't wait for the last one.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
74. How long would you survive in a zombie apocalypse?
Oh, I don't know. That's a weird question.
We're
I
big
don't know. I
Walking
probably wouldn't.
Dead fans there.
I probably
Yeah.
wouldn't survive that long. I don't know. I'd try and find a blonde zombie and take her somewhere quiet and hide until it's all over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big.
Yeah, we're big Walking Dead people. So
Walking
yeah.
Dead. Ever since that show, I look at buildings. I'm like, I would pick that one to hide out in.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's another show I've never seen, and it's not because I don't want to. I just don't have a lot of time to watch TV. But it's one that I definitely know. There's that one. There's Game of Thrones. I think I'm the only one in the world who's never seen that. But there's a few classics out there that I haven't seen. So I guess now that Handmaid's Tale is over, we're going to be looking for something else. So we could.
Yeah.
move
I
on to
recommend
something
both
like
of them. We were watching
Yep.
Walking Dead and Game of Thrones at the same time, like getting caught up. And I remember at one point, both shows had people with heads on sticks. And I was just like, do we only watch shows that have heads on sticks now? Is that where we're at in life?
I think even Handmaid's Tale has a bit of that, doesn't it? Something.
Yeah.
Well, they hang. People are hanging. People are hanging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 86. Would you rather fight a bear or a shark?
A bear.
What an Australian question that is.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, shark, you're in their territory. You can't see them coming. At least the bear, you know what's happening. I mean, I'd rather not, but at least you can see it coming,
Right.
I think I tried to do that. If you pretend to fall asleep, they're supposed to leave you alone. That probably would never work.
Whoever came up with that, I think works for the Bears. Come on,
Yeah.
That says that like, I pretended to fall asleep, and the bear's like, "Oh, I'm not going to eat a retarded person. That's it. That's I'm done." And he picked 71. What is your hometown famous for?
Bon Scott. AC/DC, Bon Scott, he's buried here.
Wow.
And he's from Perth. Yeah.
It's always
So
the
is
big
he-
debate.
So I always ask
So-
Scottish. I always ask Scottish artists this. So who gets to claim Bon Scott? Scotland or Australia? Who gets to claim him?
I think we do. I mean, look, I'm sure Scottish people would say different, but I think because he made his name here. He grew up
Yeah.
here in Fremantle, and yeah, I mean AC/DC. I mean, let's face it, they're all. I don't think there's a single person in the band that's actually Australian, but they made their name here, and they all grew up here. I mean, I'm not Australian either. I'm English, but I would consider myself Australian because I've been here since I was a kid. So
Yeah. It all goes back to Mutt Lange. Can you imagine how much money he made? He did Back in Black. He did Pyromania.
God.
He did Hysteria. I mean,
Hysteria?
my God,
Yeah.
the man just,
And then he did some pop stuff with Shania Twain and
Well, yeah, I mean, that was later, but I
Bryan
mean,
Adams.
you can only imagine how much money he got. I mean, and that's the thing, like Def Leppard, because we've interviewed some new wave of British heavy metal bands, like lesser known, and all of them said they didn't think Def Leppard was that good when they were contemporaries. But once Mutt Lange got hold of them, it was almost like an unfair advantage. It was like, they were going to be huge because they had Mutt Lange.
Yeah, but that first album's really good of Def Leppard's, and
Yeah.
that
See,
was
but if you talk to their contemporaries in England that were around in
Yeah,
like
yeah.
1980, they don't like that album. They're like, our album was better than fucking High and Dry. Or no, what's On Through the Night? Like, it was
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
There's a little bit of sour grapes, because they got Mutt
Understand.
Lange. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's funny. Whenever we interview a band like we interviewed what was it, Savage,
Mhm.
and we interviewed, anytime we interview a English band from that era, there are a little bit of sour grapes for Def Leppard. Yeah.
well,
It's interesting.
that's musicians for you,
Yeah.
So what's coming up next for you guys? I like it said, you said maybe some live shows in about a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's probably the next plan of action is to find a guy who can play guitar, and because the guys that we've used all the way through the first album it was mainly Dylan on the first album, who's the guy who ended up joining the band for the second album. But there's also I got some guests on there too, really good players from around here, and then the latest album, I've got 3 different guys who played solos. One guy did most of them, a young kid, and he's just an absolute genius. He just rips his stuff out without even thinking, and so I've got to find basically someone who can cover those parts, because there's some pretty excellent lead guitar playing. But I think I've got someone in mind. So we do that, start rehearsing, and yeah, but we're not gonna just play for the sake of playing. We will wait until a good tour comes through town that we can jump on, or a festival, something like that. I mean, look, to be honest, I haven't totally ruled out coming back to the States, because when I was with Baby Jane, we made some connections there, but I think what would almost happen there is, because of the commitments everybody has, I would almost use some local guys over there and just come by myself. That's, I mean, unless I prefer it if the band came with me, but everyone's got commitments and things like that. So yeah, I would probably reach out to some people I know over there and see if we can put something together and do it that way. But who knows? It's all about money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd probably be worth it to come to a big festival, though. I think you guys would be, really
Well received.
well received, and I think people would be like, "Wow, that was great." So
Yeah.
Well,
it's
Baby Jane, we did Rocklahoma, and so I've got that connection, which we could jump back on there, I'm sure. But yeah, it's just commitments, money, and time. We're all working day jobs. Unfortunately, this is not what we do for a living. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, this was great. Thanks for taking the time, starting your day with us. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't as painful as I thought. I tried to get to bed at a relatively decent hour last night and not drink too much. But no, I really appreciate you guys supporting the band. It's been really nice. It's always pleasant when you see a random review come in, and and especially when they're saying such nice things. So thank you for that.
This is the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.